The Alchemist is one of the most loved books on the planet, but people rarely explain why. Like, what is it about this tiny novel that hits so deeply? I've read it 3 times now, and honestly, I don't think it's the kind of book that you can read just once. Hi, I'm Siddhi, founder of the Indian Beekeepers, and on this channel, we talk about mindset, entrepreneurship, personal growth, basically anything that helps you become a better version of yourself. And today, we're diving into The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. If you're someone who hates spoilers, don't worry, I'm not giving away anything major here. So, at the surface, The Alchemist seems like such a simple story, a young boy on a journey to find his treasure. Pretty straightforward, right? But anyone who has read it knows that the treasure is not the point. Not really. It's about the journey, the signs, the people you meet, the obstacles you hit, and the kind of person you become while chasing the things you think you want. It's written like a story, but the way it's told, it almost feels like the author is whispering life advice to you without ever saying it directly. And that's the part that I love the most, that it doesn't preach. It just nudges. One of the biggest themes of this book that actually hits you really hard is sometimes everything you're looking for is already within you. There were moments where I had to just close this book and sit with a sentence that I had just read. It was so clean and so simple, so obvious that it made me rethink how I look at my life. Those lines that feel like someone finally put a word to all the thoughts that you've been having for all these years? Well, this book is full of those. If you're looking for thrill or drama or a twisty plot, this is not that kind of book. But if you're confused, stuck, demotivated, or figuring out what you need to do next in life, this book somehow lands at the right moment. It's the kind of book you give to someone that needs clarity in their life or someone who's starting something new. I actually realized why this book refuses to die. It's because it has that rare thing that most books try so hard to achieve: simplicity on the outside and depth that hits exactly when you least expect it. Also, it's a huge plus that it's such a short and a very, very easy read. So anybody can read it. My personal takeaway is that life is constantly giving us hints. The people we meet, the opportunities we get, the setbacks that we face, none of it is random. But the problem is that we're so busy rushing and overthinking and doubting ourselves that we miss observing the signs completely. I think we all just need to trust life a little bit more and trust ourselves a whole lot more. You might be chasing a goal, but the real transformation happens while you're chasing the goal. I think that's why The Alchemist is loved by people who read a lot and also by those who barely read at all. It's simple enough to enjoy, but layered enough that every reread feels like a completely different experience. And honestly, there's something so magical about a book that somehow gives you the exact message that you need at that point in life. What I also found interesting, and this might sound strange, The Alchemist doesn't impress you with complexity. Most modern authors love using big words, dense ideas to sound intellectual. But Paulo Coelho does the exact opposite. He doesn't over explain, he lets you find your own meaning. The book becomes a mirror to see what you're ready to see. He uses such simple words to say things that are honestly quite profound if you sit with them. And I think that's why readers at every stage of life interpret this book differently. If you're 16, you're going to see it like an adventure. If you're in your 20s, you'll feel like it's talking about direction and uncertainty. And if you're older, you'll recognize parts of your own journey in it. So if you've read The Alchemist once and thought, okay, nice story, try reading it again after a year or after a big change in your life. You'll literally be surprised how different it feels. Like you're reading the same words, but you're not quite the same person anymore, if it makes sense. I honestly feel like everyone should read this book at least once in their lives, not for motivation or for answers, but just to reconnect with that inner voice that we all ignore because life gets too loud. If you haven't read this book, pick it up this month. It's one of those books that you'll end up underlining even if you're not the kind to underline. Anyway, that was my very rambly but very honest take on The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. If you want me to talk more about the books I love or the books I hate, tell me in the comments, and may you find your treasure wherever it is.